Hi, I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and it is almost mid-October, so I thought that I would do a video and talk to you about some of the creepiest estate sales I've ever been to. I've been looking at estate sale videos on YouTube and seen some that are like most disturbing estate sale, creepiest estate sale, and I've watched them and my reaction has been, really? I can top that. So I'm going to share our scary estate sale experiences with you. My husband and I have been going to estate sales for probably our entire married life, which is 30 years almost. And I went to a lot of estate sales as a kid, so I've been to literally hundreds of estate sales. The vast majority of them are totally not memorable. I might remember them for a great deal I got or something weird I saw that I didn't buy. There have been 3 that were, oh my God, I would move out of my life and into this house with this stuff. But most of them aren't particularly memorable beyond whether I bought something or didn't buy something. And I can totally go around my house looking at things and tell you the whole story of the sale where I bought that thing. There have been a handful of sales that stayed with me, and those are the ones I'm going to talk about today. We live in the Cascade Foothills, so in an older town that is kind of a dying lumber town. So there are a lot of places at the edge of the woods that I wouldn't want to live there. One of the sales we went to, it turned out to be a single wide trailer out in the woods. It's one if I had driven out there on my own and seen the driveway leading to this trailer, I probably wouldn't have gone in, but I had my husband with me, and there was nothing wrong with the house. It was an old trailer that was showing signs of being an old trailer, and a man had lived there apparently alone. And set up on an ironing board, there was an ironing board and an iron, and next to the iron was a domed metal lunchbox. Think the ones like in the old cartoons where the guy is sitting eating his lunch on the girder with his box beside him. And I thought that was really cool and wanted to see how much it was. I opened it up and there were the wrappings of maybe this guy's lunch along with his medication. I don't know why that spooked me as badly as it did. But it was like he had left his lunchbox sitting on his ironing board and never come back to it. I did buy the iron that was on the ironing board, and that doesn't disturb me at all. But that lunchbox has stuck with me, and it has been years. Most of these stories are going to be, there was a trailer house at the edge of the woods, because a lot of these estate sales are. And when we're looking for estate sale ads, we look at the area and the description, and we're going for the old places where someone has lived forever, because that's where we're likely to find what we're looking for. Another trailer house, edge of some different woods, and there was a cliff behind the trailer. Like directly behind the yard, there was a probably 10-12 foot muddy drop-off, and at the bottom of this drop-off was a whole lot of old baby furniture, like cribs and high chairs, and it would be a great prop for a horror movie. I would love to know the story behind that. I would love to know the story behind that house, because inside there were tons of camera equipment and lots of video gaming consoles. My boys bought a Sega Game Gear for $1. So, and I am sure there was nothing spooky in the backstory about that baby furniture. Maybe they knew it was too old to legally sell, and that was the beginnings of a burn pile. I've been to so many sales where there was way more old cribs and high chairs and stuff than would make sense for even a large family, so I don't think there's anything wrong going on there. It's just another one that was like, what is going on here? And this creeps me out a little bit. We were over in Central Oregon, and this has just been maybe 3 or 4 years ago, decided to follow some signs for an estate sale. It was middle of the afternoon on a Saturday, still early enough in the day that you would expect the sale to be open. And we kind of meandered around some roads until we found the house with the signs and the stuff out front. And got out of the car, there was no one there. And we wandered around a little bit around the tables and were expecting there to be a person. I can't even remember what they were selling. About the time we decided to head back to the car, a dog came out from around the back side of the garage. And we were just slowly walking back to the car, and this thing lunged and bit my youngest son. I have never been so freaked out at an estate anywhere. It got the loose hem of his shorts. It did not bite him, but a couple of weeks earlier he had had a run-in with an old barn fence and at our place and had some stitches. So when I looked to see if the dog had gotten him, it looked like something had grazed the skin, and so I am in my head panicking till he reminded me that that was where his stitches were, and it was just a fresh scar, and that was non-eventful, but would have hugely escalated if there had been a dog bite injury, because I would have totally been calling the sheriff and dealing with that. More recently, we went to one, and I don't know, it was again just one of those things that without any context looks really weird. Old house in town, probably built in the 30s or 40s, but I'm not great at guessing house ages. It was, I don't know what terms you would use to describe it. It was a house that had been built a long time ago and was probably a perfectly fine, perfectly tiny little house when it was built, but nobody had ever done anything to it had probably a newer stove from the 80s, but we find a lot of these places that are just old and have steadily gotten older. And again, that's where you're going to find the old cheap Pyrex or the things I'm looking for. In one of the front rooms, all of the walls were black. And there was a lot of old medical equipment, and tacked up next to the hospital bed was were driver's test results from, I believe, 1968. Again, I'm curious, how does that happen? And I could totally plot a horror novel around that, even though I am absolutely sure that there is no bad story behind that. And now we are on to the two sales that scared the bejeebers out of me. Same day as we found the black bedroom, we went to another house. Again, it's an older house. They had partially remodeled the kitchen, and it had concrete countertops and the most amazing farmhouse sink I've ever seen. I went home and looked the sink up online, and it was like a $3,000 sink. So I had wandered away from my husband into a back bedroom, and there was a portrait. It was a portrait that had obviously been painted by an amateur. It was an old man in a captain's hat. And this is where I think my memory is playing tricks on me, because I'm kind of halfway convinced it was a nude from the thighs up, but my brain wasn't processing this picture really well. And there was a smell in the room. And it was a smell I had smelled before, but I didn't immediately recognize it beyond, this isn't mildew, this isn't dry rot, this isn't cat pee. And the next thing I know, my husband is standing right behind me and whispers, "Somebody died in here." And we left very quickly. And I tend to take pictures at estate sales, and I wish I had a picture of that portrait, because I know my memory and the reality probably aren't that close to one another. But who knows? That one haunts me. And that brings us to the estate sale that absolutely takes the cake as far as creepy, get me the hell out of here. I had found an ad for a sale. Said it was an estate sale, a 10-bedroom house, and living where we live, there are some huge old places. We went to one that I think was a 10-bedroom house, and that was totally one of my, I would move out of my life into this house in a heartbeat. So 10-bedroom house sounded like a really good reason to go visit the sale. And we got there. The 10-bedroom house was a church. It was a maybe 1970s, 1980s. It didn't look like a church, but the layout of the building, it was totally and completely a church. And we were met at the doors by a gentleman in denim, barefoot gentleman in denim overalls. His tone of voice and his handshake. He was going to invite us to drink some Kool-Aid and come to the barbecue or something. It was a little unsettling. There was just something about him that I can't explain. You would know it and recognize it if you saw it. So we went into the building to look around, and he told us, go into all the rooms and everything's for sale. Like I said, the building had been a church, obviously, but any physical signs that it had been a church had been stripped away. So you had this big foyer, and then past them was a large room with an elevated section at one end that had obviously been the sanctuary. Around the outer edges of that were presumably originally offices or classrooms, but now they were bedrooms. And in each one there was a single mattress on the floor, and there were people's clothing hanging in the closets and people's personal items scattered around. And the feeling in that place, I don't think those people knew their stuff was being sold. I don't know if those people were coming back and going to find out their stuff had been sold. There was something wrong in there. There was also in some of the rooms a lot of medical equipment, and there were some big cabinets with 3-ring binders, and you could tell by the spines of the binders that there had been medical records. I don't know. I want to believe that the medical records were still not there. There was a dresser with all of somebody's personal correspondence in it. There was just a sense in this place that something was really wrong. I don't know if it had been some kind of drug treatment facility or what it was, but kind of my thought at the moment I was in there was that I hoped whoever was there had escaped. It was never been any place like it before in my life, and if my husband had not been with me, I would have bolted out those front double doors so fast. To add to the ambiance of this scene, in the back of the sanctuary, for want of a better term, the big main room, was a timer, with a digital timer with like 10-inch high numbers that were counting down to something, I think it was like 15 hours away from where we were at that moment. I don't know what that timer was counting down to. I don't know if that timer was counting down to something, but it scared me. And my husband was, when we were outside, was looking at a rototiller. It's like, there is no way anything from that place was coming home with me. I have never been to a sale where I had that strong a feeling of nothing from this place is coming home with me. And thank goodness he didn't want that rototiller, because I would have put up a fight. It was ridiculous. And for like the next 3 hours, I wanted to go home and take a shower and I kind of wanted an exorcism. It was words fail me. And I have been in dusty barns. I have been in moldy houses. Those, you come home and you wash the grime off. This place left me with a feeling of dread that I hope to God I never feel again. So those are my creepy estate sale stories. I have, like I said, been to hundreds of estate sales, and there were only a few that I would call creepy. And that last one scared the bejeebers out of me. Now, we did, a few years ago, my son and I hiked down the highway to a farm auction. And while we were standing there waiting for the cuckoo clocks to come up, because I really wanted a cuckoo clock and was hoping I could get one cheap, there was a guy standing beside me talking about how the guy who owned the house had died, and he laid there in the room where we were standing for 2 weeks before anyone found him or something. And at the time, I was only halfway listening to him, and now in hindsight, I really wonder if that wasn't just a story to scare off the competition. I brought home a cuckoo clock. No bad vibes. So, let me know, have you been to a creepy estate sale or one where things didn't seem to be as they should have been? I would love to know your stories. Don't let this scare you away from estate sales because, like I said, most of them are perfectly fine and reasonable and safe and happy. And other than the dog, I don't know if any of these were dangerous. Maybe the scary church. I had never been down that road before, and now circumstances have changed and the scary church is directly on the way to someplace else I need to frequently be. I can't get from here to there without passing it, and it is still there, and the guy is still there. I see him occasionally, and it's still creepy. Guess they weren't a suicide cult, or that probably would have made the news. Thank you for watching. I am Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle. I would love to hear your estate sale stories, and I will be back soon with more videos of thrifting and crafting and needlework. Are you done?
She needed food.
Okay, well, go be done so I can finish this.